Ina mana, ina reo, e ro rangatira mā, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Morning everyone. Wow, it's a packed house. This is amazing. It's great to see so many people and to see so many people from offshore come to New Zealand. I was commenting earlier, it's a funny thing, I've just got back from a conference in Singapore, and we never think twice about going to conferences overseas, but we always seem amazed when someone comes to New Zealand to a conference. But looking around the room, we actually have some of the best and brightest in the world, so why wouldn't people come to New Zealand and connect with us? So it's a real privilege to be opening this morning. Oh, see if technology works. Not so far. Oh, there we go. See if it works or if someone's clicking along with me. So hey, look, as Dave and John have both mentioned this morning, we're 4 months young as an institute, so don't expect people to know who the Bioeconomy Science Institute is, but we do hope you know preferably all 4 of these, but at least one of these 4 that have come together. And as Dave said rightly at the start, well, a whole bunch changes, but nothing changes at the same time. So we're looking to evolve, right? We're looking to do things better, to do more, and to bring a lot of collaboration together that in the past has been a little bit more separate. But actually our connections with groups like this and with the work that you've seen us doing over the last nearly 100 years, if you date back our full history, should continue and if anything get better. Well, so that's who we are now, Bioeconomy Science Institute. Oh. This is what we do. So effectively, if it grows on the whenua or in the awa, we're doing science on it in some way, shape or form. So covering the whole spectrum across agriculture, animal, pastoral, horticultures, arable, into viticulture, through into aquaculture, and the environment, so both the urban and rural environment. And for me, really critical that those stay together. I don't think you can look at things that are growing, that you're making an economic return from without actually understanding the environmental impact of that. And so hopefully I'll touch on a few things that will get you excited towards the end of this as well. So these are the sectors we cover. I've touched on most of this, pretty much all of primary sector in the environment. Just wanted to put this up just for a bit of perspective. If you look back from 2021 to 2025, this is information from the Situation and Outlook for Primary Industries from the government, and you can see some pretty compelling narratives in there. So dairy, obviously a huge success story. Now we know that that also comes with a lot of added cost, and while a lot of dairy is doing well, we also have seen some of our New Zealand dairy companies having some challenging times over the last few years with some recent acquisitions taking place. But a 41% increase. I'm sure there's a lot of dairy people in the world, and I spent 30 years in dairy, so I'm confident saying that this growth wouldn't have happened without science. So without the right sort of science helping on productivity, whether that's from soils and grasses, right through to the different products that are being sold around the world, this is all on the back of great farming, great genetics, and great science. Meat and wool's had good growth as well, although not as strong. And for any meat people and wool people in the audience, you don't invest enough in science. Horticulture, again, really strong growth, and again, a good investor in science. Forestry, again, any forestry people, you also don't invest enough in science, but actually hasn't grown. So forestry has really struggled in the last 5 years and has struggled for quite a long time. So if you go back to 2019, it sort of hit the peak of value and then has been relatively flat to declining since. Other food's been relatively flat, and then seafood has had 20% growth but off a pretty modest base, and we think there's a lot of opportunity for that in the future. So the sectors that we support really matter for New Zealand. Roughly $60 billion of export value, over 80% of goods that are exported from New Zealand. When you look at New Zealand from a productive land use, it's about 42% of New Zealand's land is used for productive gain, quite a bit. Some of it takes a lot more land, so things like sheep, beef take a lot of land, dairy a little bit less, but obviously highly productive, and then you get into the smaller areas beyond that. So if I just move through those, when you look at animal production, sheep is the biggest one, not necessarily the most profitable as it stands today, although there's some great work going on in that space. Dairy, smaller from a number of animals, but obviously highly productive and highly valuable on the back of that. And then beef, again, I think massive opportunity for beef internationally. We are well regarded around the world. Plant production, about $8 billion of horticulture exports. Kiwi fruits, the big story from a value perspective with wine, and then apples and pears on the back of that. And then on the forestry side, you'll see, and probably no surprise because we talk about it a lot as a country, logs is the big share of what we do. And we think there's a lot of opportunity to continue to add value in that space. Fish, the lion's share is in wild capture. That's a challenging area and something that we really do need to focus on from a sustainability perspective. We think that is still part of the future, but we think the opportunity for farmed, i.e. aquaculture, is large. And certainly when I was in Singapore last week, it was a very large talking point and is around the world. So for us, our locations, we go from the top of the north to the bottom of the south and everywhere in between. One of the comments I often get is, oh, surely now that you've merged, you'll look to consolidate that. It's a great sort of business concept, but it's quite naive. So when you look at it, we have 85% of our sort of labs and offices sit in 5 locations. So Lincoln, Palmerston North, Auckland, the Waikato and Rotorua are our top 5 locations. And then the rest of it is kind of where the growing is. So for example, we've got kiwi fruit in Te Puke, we've got apples in Hawke's Bay. So actually the need to consolidate isn't probably in the number of sites as it is in how do we better connect ourselves on the sites we've got here. So our teams that are in this region here, I don't know how many buildings we'd have, Dave, but more than 20, I would guess, across the campuses. And so the opportunity for people to connect better, how do we bring that about? We've also got a couple of people in Australia. We've got a close relationship with people in Australia and with the science that's done there. And then we've got one person based in the US, more in a business development role, just keeping abreast of what's going on there. For some of our international visitors, you'll go, why don't you have someone in China? Why don't you have someone in Singapore? Great questions and ones we should definitely be exploring now that we're a different organisation. But we do have great partnerships in those countries that go back a long way. So when we look at innovation, we look at it right across the value chain, and this is quite critical, I think, because we're not doing science in isolation of understanding the bigger picture. So when you look at things, pasture is a lot of what New Zealand's economy is built on, so I feel like I'm in the right place today. And high quality pasture, resilient pasture, understanding the soils that connect to that are really key. Having a sustainable environment is key, and then at the end of that, making sure we're actually getting value for the products. So some of the things that we're exploring for the future, let's start off with a nice controversial one. Gene technologies, we think this has the opportunity to really both speed up and improve what we do and how we do it. We know that New Zealand as a country is slightly divided on this, and there's obviously discussions going through government at the moment. But it's something that we as a science organisation, we want all the tools in the toolkit. We want to be able to use them properly, and at the moment we can't. We can do them in a lab or we can do them overseas. And the example that I use quite often, just because it would be funny if it wasn't true, is we can grow in a controlled environment an apple tree. We can grow an apple on that tree. We can look at it and go, that looks delicious. And then if we want to eat it, we can fill in any amount of paperwork we want, but we need to take that apple to either Australia or America and fly someone with it, and then we can eat it. So at the moment, that's how restrictive the rules are, even from a science perspective. So we are very pro-change here. Sustainable land use is a really big topic, and I think with us coming together as the Bioeconomy Science Institute, we've got a lot of opportunity to actually look across all the different areas. And coming out of the dairy industry, we had a lot of connection with farmers. We shouldn't tell farmers what to do. I was going to say we don't, but I know we do sometimes. We shouldn't tell farmers what to do, but we should give farmers the tools to say, here's your options, and here's what it could mean. Here's what your land could be used for. And then let the farmers make the right decision for themselves, both from an economic and a value basis for themselves. So we really need to look at how we get climate resilience, how we get sustainable farming, and what that means. And that'll differ for each farmer, for each region. But as we sort of see, if climates are warming up or cooling down, or both, how do we actually make sure that we're looking at both ends of that and providing the tools into the people that are actually doing the growing and the producing. One of the other areas that's interesting, and there's a couple of companies looking at this at the moment, is we are really good at growing grass, exceptionally good at it. One of the things that's being looked at is, can you take that protein out of the grass, the rubisco, refine that and make a product that can be used for humans. We know cows are really efficient at doing that today. Is there another way on top of that? Again, not as an ore model, but as something alongside that. We're also in the process, I'm always a little nervous when I put this up in advance because we haven't actually got approval for it yet, but we are pushing for it. Particularly in forestry, there's no real sort of scale up where you're looking at different ways to take particularly forestry waste, but also food waste and other waste from across the country and turn it into a higher value product. So we're working, we've got a pitch in through the Regional Infrastructure Fund at the moment into government to look at building what's called a biofactory in Rotorua, which won't be owned by the Bioeconomy Science Institute, but effectively creates that scale-up opportunity. So if any scientists have heard of the Valley of Death, where you do great work at the front end and you can't turn it into production, scale-up is one of the things that really stops that happening. So we're looking to do something in this space, use of fermentation, really trying to drive value add into things like biofuels packaging, a whole range of products. And then last but not least, you might have seen a couple of weeks ago, our Minister Reti, announced $42.8 million across the next 7 years to set up what's called the Biodiscovery Platform. So New Zealand's home to about 80,000 unique species of flora and fauna. We want to work alongside Māori and work out what do they look like, how do we both protect them and where it makes sense, use them to enhance, whether that's through sports and active sort of areas, whether it's through different nutrition, whether it's through things that can help with health, but what are the opportunities in New Zealand that are quite unique to us. So we're just in the process of setting that up now. So I've had, since that announcement, no end of emails going, how do I become part of it? Great question, that's the bit we're working on now, to then go back into government and say, all right, here's the plan for it, can we now lock it in and get this started? So I think this is exciting. I think, again, one of the things that New Zealand, because we're at the bottom of the world, we do have some things that are quite unique to us. How do we look at this? How do we do more with it? And how do we do more with it alongside probably what might be in other parts of the world as well? So look, thank you everyone. Look, I hope you have a fantastic couple of days. The program sounds great. It's fantastic to have international people in the audience. My challenge to everyone would be, rather than sit with people you know over the next 3 days, particularly at dinners and various other things, try and sit with people you don't know. It's quite easy as we travel around in groups, we're kind of little pack animals. Go and sit with people you have never met before, because that's the beauty of these conferences. I mean, it's great listening to talks, and no doubt they'll be riveting, but the value, particularly when you've come from far and wide, is to connect, to make new sort of relationships, and then to take them back to wherever you come from and keep them going. So enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you.